mini coaching session today to show you guys what it's like, right? What it's like to get coached in accent coaching. And I want to say first that, Konstantin works in English, so his language level is incredibly high. And so you're going to see what that's like, right? Because you might be at a lower level, maybe upper intermediate. So your needs might be different from his. So I'm going to let Konstantin maybe introduce himself and say why he wants this today, for example.
Sure. Hi, Bianca. It's really good to see you again, and thanks for having me. And of course, we're friends, and we've known each other actually for 6 years, I think, already.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Yes,
been,
long
yeah,
time,
it's,
long
it's been a
time.
long, it's been a long time. Yeah, my name is Konstantin. I'm Russian. I'm a journalist, and I've been doing journalist job my whole professional career. I was a classic TV in front of the camera reporter, and also was a content creator, a YouTuber. So right now I'm in a transitional phase, and I'm going back from being a YouTuber to classic TV. But also I'm going to be working in English. And well, one of the main reasons why I reached out to you again was that since I'm going back to TV, there is a higher, well, the bar is set pretty high compared to YouTube. YouTube, it's not about, it's not into accents, so, that much, right?
Mhm.
It's just there are some other challenges, language-wise challenges that are present on YouTube, and we can talk about that as well. But as a TV reporter working for an international network, yeah, you gotta nail those emphasis and words and accents. It should be perfect
As
to
best you
achieve.
can, right? Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's so interesting to me. We could do a whole podcast episode instead on this, but like the ideas of systems and power and authority and like affiliation and status, let's say, like accents are a whole different world. But let's like put that aside for now. And today we're gonna do a little demo, let's say. And because your language level is so high, I wanted to say anytime, let me just share my screen. Anytime you have, let's say, a mistake first of all, and I can see that your username for there isn't quite visible because it's there. So there we go. Okay, so
That's
there we
really
go. If anybody
blurry.
wants to contact Konstantin or yeah, follow you on Rumble, then there's your link. I'm gonna put it in the description of the video later. But what I wanted to say is that if there's a pronunciation, we couldn't even call it mistake really, because at this level we're just polishing, right? We're fine tuning things. I'm gonna write them on the screen here and explain them. So let me give a quick example, right? What I heard was something like this: reached out to you, right? As it out to you. For example, I'm gonna write it down this way, and it's not outa. Like, let me get out of the house, right? Oh my gosh, there's an earthquake. I gotta get out of the house, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you did that, when you assimilated those sounds, it was fantastic. But here I wouldn't suggest it, right? Here's what I would suggest. I think you probably remember. My guys, remember it's been like years since I've talked to Konstantin. But if you remember the glottal stop sound, do you remember what that sounds like?
Sure.
If okay, good. Okay, cool. If not, then I wanted to explain it again. It's been a while. But can you demonstrate that sound? And the symbol looks like this. Can you demonstrate what that might sound like if I said, "Hey, do a glottal stop there"?
Uh, out,
Yes.
out.
Now connect it together. So give me a good explosive T right after that glottal stop. So like this: out to you, out to you. Try that.
Out to you, out
Yes,
to you,
exactly. Out to you, out to you, out to you.
out to
Exactly.
you.
So what you did was great. I just wouldn't do it here. Does that make sense? Let's get
Uh-huh.
out.
So it should
Let's
be
get out of
reached
here.
out,
Uh-huh.
reached out,
Exactly.
and
I would
not reached
uh-huh.
out, reached out, reached out.
Uh-huh. And the reason is, look at this. When you say outa like that, and you've got that what we
Uh-huh.
call flap T for people, I'm gonna mark that what that looks like too. It looks like that. It's a symbol with a T and a little arrow under there. When you say outa, what it really means is out of, right? So let's get out of
Ah,
the house. Let's get out of this restaurant. I don't really like it that much.
out of
Outa,
here, out
outa.
of
So
here.
you're
Yeah.
really saying reached out of you, and that doesn't quite make sense. So when we do that reduction in that way, that's what we're really saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So reached out to
Awesome.
you. Reached out
Reached
to
out
you.
to you,
Huh.
reached out to
Yeah.
you. So we know out of becomes outa, outa, outa. And there's a reason for that, by the way. For anybody who knows these flap T's, when do I see a flap T? In two places, right? So the strategy is, I like to call it a vowel sandwich, right? So if there is, I'm going to just change this real quick so you can see me a little bit better. I like to call it a vowel sandwich. So when there's a T between two vowels, and in this case, it's the connected speech, right? I've got my vowel in O-U-T, and then I've got another vowel in of, right? A vowel sandwich gives me that da-da-da-da-da, like water sound, right? But here's the thing. A lot of people don't know this. It can be a vowel sandwich, or it can be what we call glides or semi-vowels. So it could be between Y's and W's, or it could be what we call liquid sounds, which is R's and L's. So if you've got a T between any of those, you're going to get that da 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 da. Let me give you an example. What's the opposite of clean? And it starts with the letter D.
Dirty.
There we go. Why did you say that da 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 there? You're like, there's no
Dirty.
vowels. Yeah, there's T's not between vowels. It's between an R, which we call a liquid sound, and a Y, which we call a semi-vowel. So it's not just between, let's say, regular vowels. Does that make sense when I want to apply that flap T? And why I don't want that here when I say out to you. I reached out to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That idea?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect,
Outer.
perfect.
Yeah. It's out of.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So rule of thumb now, right? Outa, keep that as your chunk, let's say. And the word O-U-T in general, switch it in your mind and be like, I'm always going to glottal stop this. Why? The higher frequency a word is, the more common it is, and it ends with T, the more likely I am, at least in American English, to glottal stop it. Let's take the word B-U-T. I probably can't get through the day without saying B-U-T. It's so common. So I say, oh, it's super common. It ends in T. I'm going to go at the end. But you weren't there, right? Forget about if there is a vowel next or a consonant next. If the word is super common and it ends in T, that's my glottal stop category, right? So this way, anytime you say the word out, just glottal stop that. Unless it's this one, right? I'm out of time, for example. I'm out of time. All right. Cool.
Right.
Okay.
Got it.
So I want to hear you speaking more fluently, but one more thing, just to demonstrate if there's any fine tuning. Say this phrase again, if you don't mind.
International network.
And speaking of glottal stops, right? A lot of people will say, hey, I know that when there's a T and then there's an N kind of nearby, we tend to glottal stop that or maybe even drop it, right? So I want to take that this T right here and think about, this is actually turning into the day of T's for us. It wasn't the plan, but let's say there's 4 kinds of T's and we already hit the glottal stop and we're going to say, let's say regular. Oh no, yeah, I want to call it regular. Let's call it released. Let's call it glottal, which we just did. I can't type and speak at the same time, obviously. Really not bad at that. We just mentioned the third one. We said flap T. And here's the last one that I want you to think about too. And remember, this is all fine tuning, guys. This is all like, if you're like, wow, I speak so well, what can I possibly get better at? Here's what you can get better at. There's 4 kinds of T's, right? So I've got a released T, right? We say that at the beginning of words like to or today, right? At the end of words, we don't really see that. We're going to probably do a glottal stop if it's a high frequency word, a flap T, like we said, if it's in a vowel sandwich or one of those sandwiches. Here's the last one I want you to remember. Oops, not released, unreleased, right? So this one, international. I could release that if I wanted to. It's near the beginning of the word. You're saying international, right? Which a lot of people do, but I want you to think about something in between that you could employ, which is this, right? Unreleased. What does that mean? I'm going to take, actually, let me make the picture of me bigger. And I'm going to take this. I have this giant, I don't even know if you remember this, giant mouth. I don't know if I had it back then.
I love it. Yeah.
It's like a dentist's mouth, right? So if we think about a released T, a regular T, my tongue tip is right on that bump. behind your teeth, right? T, t. That might not be true, by the way, in all languages. For some people, it's kind of in front of the bump. For some people, it's almost on the teeth. Like if you are a Spanish speaker from Spain, right? Your T's are more forward. So think about, guys, in your first language, where does your tongue tip touch? And if it's not touching on the bump and releasing strongly, that's the first step. So, t, t, t. So what I mean by unreleased is that your tongue tip is going to go right there. It's going to go on the bump, but you're not going to release the air. So it's going to be like this. In, or international. International. So my air is going to come out on the E rather than the T. Does the idea make sense? I'm making like a T, but I'm not exploding it. That's my point.
Yeah, that's
Just the
interesting
idea.
because Russian in Russian T's they're not aspirated. That's
Oh.
most of the consonants, all of the consonants actually are not aspirated. That's the big difference also in the accent. So I'm curious. So you were saying it's in well
in-
no
in-
international
International.
international.
And it's a tiny difference, right? But since you said that about Russian, it's like, oh, that should be easy, and it makes total sense for you, right? Because you use the word aspiration, and I use the word released or unreleased. Personally, I use the word aspiration when we're talking about like an H sound. And there's lots more, a lot of more air there, right? If that makes sense, right? International, international, right? So focusing, where does the air shift?
Interesting.
And this is a weird example because normally we're going to get an unreleased T. Where is it? Last thing about T's, I swear, and then we want to hear you talk a little bit more. But a T sound, like we said, here it is, right there in the front, right? So when do I get an unreleased T sound? Well, when there's other sounds in the front because I'm trying to save energy. For example, what else is near the front? Let's take an S. Let's say it's cold out, for example, right? It's cold out. It's cold out. Because I'm articulating that T in the front and an S is also right along the ridge, then that's gonna make me say, oh, let me save some energy. Let me save some time, right? So if there's something else that's close, our body often does it naturally with other sounds, but sometimes it doesn't think, oh, I can apply that strategy here too, right? So just the idea of, we actually have 4 T's, and I don't think you and I ever actually talked about it and broke it down, right? When do I use which one?
No.
Okay, perfect. So turned out to be morning of the T's, at least morning for me. Now, our original plan was to be talking about like, hey, let's talk about voice. And like we kind of said earlier, maybe even authority or purpose behind we're speaking, because you're at home today, I think, and so you're just like, you're being you, right? You're being yourself, and we all have kind of our home voice, I like to say. But also, you, when you're like in reporter mode, can you describe, if anything, how do you speak differently? Do you notice anything different about how your voice changes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, there is more confidence and delivery, and just there's more weight in your voice. And you want this. I mean, some people say that it sounds unnatural, but if you're gonna speak naturally, like you speak at home on TV, this is not gonna look good.
It's not going to carry the same
'Cause-
weight, like you said. Weight, yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So would you be able to, I don't know, quantify in a way? How do I get weight in my voice if you're kind of conscious of it, because you make a switch, right? But can you think of like what you change? And by the way, this topic is just to get you to be speaking, and when we see a little mistake, we're just going to pause because I'm going to mark it on here. So let me share that screen again. Here's one that a lot of people forget. Think about that thing I said about weight in your voice, but a lot of people forget that final S's should be voiced. And for everybody else, when I say voicing, I mean that your vocal folds should be vibrating. So, and of course the spelling here is going to catch us every time in English, because a letter S, right, is S. You shouldn't have any vibration there, but it's just the spelling, S, right? Look at that first S. Sound. I shouldn't be saying sounds. Definitely not. Sound zzz. That's like a Z sound, like a mosquito zzz in the room or a bee, right? Sound zzz, and you're like, hey, but they're both S's, right? But rule of thumb, a final S, written final S in English is gonna be voiced. It's gonna sound like a Z, like, oh, let's say 90% of the time, right? So if you have anything that has a final S, that should be a Z sound. And I can really hear it in the connected speech because the vowel is next. So let me demonstrate. Sounds unnatural. Go ahead.
Sounds unnatural.
Yes,
Sounds
exactly.
unnatural.
Exactly.
Sounds unnatural.
Sounds unnatural. Sounds unnatural. And what I like to do for my connected speech is I like to kind of what we call re-bracket this. And I like to say sounds unnatural. Sounds unnatural. So how you did it was perfect, right? You added that Z.
Sounds unnatural.
And you kind of gave it its
Interesting. So
own
you
space. Yeah.
push the Z to the next word.
That's how I think of it. Yeah, that's how I think of it for
Sounds
connected speech.
unnatural.
Sounds unnatural. So let me quick
unnatural.
quiz, let's say. I'm going to write 2 words up here. I'm looking around my table. What do I have here? I've got this and I've got, hold on. I've got 3 things actually. Ho, ho, ho. We are lucky today. I've got this. I've got this. Well, I've only got 1, but I'm going to put them each one in plural. Think about these 3 words, right? These 3 words. Number 1, like we said, 90% of the time, but we're going to talk about why for a quick second. I got 1 cup right here. Let me make me big again. I've got 1 cup, right? But what if I had 2? What would I call them? Cup s or cup z? What's your natural inclination?
Or cups.
Cups. And that's absolutely
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right? Here's an S that sounds like an S. I like to say S like a snake. Cups, cups. You're like, okay, sounds good. But what if I then say, this is a bit hot, but I've got 1 mug. What if I had 2?
No, that would be 2 mugs. Yeah.
Mugs, exactly.
Yeah,
So
mugs.
sometimes you totally do it naturally, right? Now we're thinking, okay, yes, but why? How am I going to know? What's the rule? 1 more. Let's call this one, I have a lot of things to drink here, obviously. This one's a glass, right? And if I had 2 of them, what would I say? S or Z?
Glasses.
Glasses. What is that final one, an S like a snake or a Z like a zebra?
Zebra,
Okay,
yeah.
exactly. It's voiced, right? Okay,
Glasses.
good. So you're doing it naturally, right? You're just not always catching it, right? Sounds unnatural. Sometimes your Z's are sounding like S's, right? So we want to think, okay, I got to work on my voicing. It could be other sounds too, but definitely S's, because that's the most common at the ends of words. But what's the rule? In case you didn't know, let me go back to the slides. Well, slides, sharing the screen. All right. How do I know? I've got a S is unvoiced. S. Well, the one just before it is also unvoiced. P, 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 p. If you're not unvoicing it, there's a problem there. But if you're saying cub, that's a problem. Like baby cubs. Oh, look at that mama bear. She has 3 baby cubs. Bzz, b, b, b. Oh, that one's voiced. So if the preceding sound is unvoiced, keep the S unvoiced. If the preceding sound is voiced, keep the S voiced, right? Cups versus, like we said, cubs, bzz, bzz, right? So if we look back at our original example, sound that's voiced, sounds unnatural, sounds unnatural, right? So that's the why kind of behind it, right? So then we see, oh, g, that's voiced, mugs, that's why it's voiced, right? And maybe you didn't know the reason behind it, but now you can decide, you can just look ahead and say, oh, that's why I've been doing it wrong. I just didn't know, right? And then the last one, there's another category of sounds, right? We've got what we call unvoiced, we've got voiced sounds. That's one way to think about it. These are P's and G's, p, p, g, g. They're explosive sounds. We call them plosives. Another kind of what I do with the air is I create friction, right? So these are called fricatives. S, that's friction, right? S. With some of the friction sounds, I do need that Z as in zebra. Let me mark it here. But I also need something else. Everybody's favorite sound, everybody's favorite vowel, I should say, right? So, s, s, z, z. I know it's going to be z, but there's something else I need to do in front of that, right? and I've got this. These are S's. Do, 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 do. What's the vowel that you probably used to get wrong when you were much younger, but you don't anymore? People say, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the beach," and they say something else, right? What's the sound for the other word, the short vowel sound?
Short I.
Eh, exactly.
Yeah, short
So I
I.
need to add that I, and you did it. I just want to point it out and show like, oh, what are we doing? Let's break it down. So really, what am I looking at? Sizz, sizz,
Glasses.
sizz.
Glasses.
Sizz, sizz. So if you've got any word that ends in an S, it doesn't matter here. It's the spelling is double, doesn't matter. Or some other what we call friction sounds, then you need that is not just the z there. Let me do a little pop quiz. I found a magic lantern. I found a genie in a bottle. What do I get? I get 3 what?
3 wishes.
Wish
wishes.
is exactly. Shh. You're like, hey, wait, shh is unvoiced, but it's that fricative, it's that friction sound. So we've got shiz in this case, wishes, right? Making sure to voice that, right? And we're breaking it down.
Wishes.
But to maybe finalize this, I want to show how we can hear, hey, did I do that right? Right? Now we know when do I do which one, and now we need to know, okay, how can I self-check, for example, right? Well, logically I can say, well, that was a friction sound, and so I know that it's got to be this. Therefore I need the I in front of it, right? I can kind of logically roll through that, but how can I hear it? What am I listening for, right? And by the way, that sh, if you haven't seen this symbol in a while, guys, it's one of my favorites. It's just this little cute little hook. That means shh, as in be quiet. So how do I know? We said it earlier, but just to reiterate, it's going to be blazingly obvious when I have a final S and the next word starts with a vowel. So if you're looking to practice this yourself, right, look around the room like we did, find some words, I don't know, I was brushing my hair before we started. Brush, that's a sh, like wish, right? Look around the room, look at the end of the word, right? Make it plural. Look at the end of the word, add your S or your ES, and then say, which one do I think it is? We know most of the time it's going to be voiced, but let's break it down why. And then take a word after it and make it easy first, right? For example, mugs on the table. Mugs on the table. Now I'm like, I can really hear that popping out there. Mugs on the table. Do that one and do it the way you did before, where you kind of separate it like that.
Mugs and mugs on the table. Mugs
there you
on
go.
the table.
Mugs zon. That's zon, not son, right? It's easy to hear. Okay,
Mugs
your turn.
on the table, yeah.
Finish the phrase. Give me another word that starts with a vowel, right? And just make a phrase there, and I'll write it down when you say it. Could be in, on, at, over, right? As long as it starts with a vowel.
Mugs in the cupboard.
Very good. In the cupboard. That's all we need. So here's what you're going to do on your own. You're going to look around the room, find an object, make it plural, right? Make a sentence, but with a vowel next. That's step 1. It's the easiest thing to do. I can't type it. The same time. I'm going to say in the kitchen because I can't spell cupboard right now. Mugs in the kitchen. And then you say, okay, am I connecting it? Can I hear that Z sound, right? Step 2, we're going to take, let's say, a consonant. Now, mugs, I'll be the first one to do it. And it doesn't have to make any sense at all. Mugs for my mom, right? There's a consonant next. I say, now I'm blending these consonants. Zzz, not easy. Give me this sentence, give me this phrase, just like you did before, and really try to keep that voicing with the consonant that's next. Go ahead.
Mugs for my mom.
That's exactly what I want. I had voiced,
mugs,
unvoiced.
Yeah, mugs for my mom.
For my mom. Mugs for my mom. I'm actually turning that off, which is a fabulous skill, right? Mugs for my mom. Your turn. Give me a mom, not mon, sorry. give me the rest of the phrase where that next word starts with a consonant. Anything you like.
Mugs stick together.
I love this example. Let me tell you why. And it doesn't have to make any sense. Why are the mugs sticking together? Who knows? They're covered in jam and honey. Who knows? But that's the point, right? Is I'm analyzing the sounds and I'm trying to challenge myself a little bit. This is probably the hardest one you could have come up with. And let's end with this wonderful exercise that I like. I need a name for it. I don't have a name for it. Maybe you can help me brainstorm. But here's what I want you to do. I've got voiced and unvoiced. Remember what I just said with the F? And I said, oh, you're going from voiced to then unvoiced. Mugs. I can feel it. I can feel it turning off, right? That's control. So I want to show you an exercise that I can't remember if we did a long time ago or maybe you forgot about it, but for anybody who's watching this, it's a fantastic exercise and this is actually the most difficult one. So here you go. I'm gonna just I'll write it down afterwards. Let me stop sharing the screen. All right, here's the target, right? I want to control this thing so I can turn it on and off at will, right? And just the space of like one letter. So here's an exercise you can do in the shower, walking the dog. I don't know if you you're shoveling snow in Russia where you are, but like you can do this anytime, making coffee, whatever, right? So I'm gonna control this and I'm gonna do it in one breath. So watch what I do. I'm gonna take a breath and I'm gonna start the other way, the easy way. I'm gonna start with S like a snake, S, and then I'm gonna turn it on and I'm gonna go to Z like a zebra, right? So watch me and then you copy. It's the easiest one, but it's for everybody. S. Go ahead, one breath, don't stop, don't do anything. Exactly. You see where I'm going with it. Exactly. You've got great lungs, by the way. Like, exactly. So your job is to get as many of those in as you can without trying to stick in a vowel, without pausing, something like that. So as much as you can, right? Exactly. That's activating. That's activating those vocal folds. And then if you can think of any friction sounds as well, we can do the same thing. So let's take that shh, shh. What if I add voicing to shh? What would it become? It's kind of a tough one. I say shh. Exactly, like television, right? Let's try that. Deep breath. Shh. A little more difficult. You got it. Yeah, you see? Let's take another one. We did it earlier. F like 4, or the number, it could be for my mom, right? Go for it. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So take that same thing. Little bonus, I would say, is that let's think about, now earlier we said, okay, there's friction, and then we said, oh, there's plosives, right? So sounds that explode. Let's take that and let's also work on the vocal folds and activating them. I'm going to give you 3 sounds, and I want you to say them again and again and again. P, t, k. Go ahead. Are you voicing it all? No, it's perfect. It sounds like you're whispering. What do people sometimes do? They go, they're kind of half voicing. We don't want that, right? So we got. Now do the voiced version. B, d, g. Go ahead.
B, d, g.
Fast as you can. Exactly. Now we're gonna switch back and forth. Your turn. Now you're doing beatbox. Maybe not the kind of thing you want to do like out on a date.
This one's more difficult. Yeah.
Exactly. When you get better,
there are 6 sounds you have to control.
And you're thinking about the articulation, where's my tongue, right? So that's another way to challenge yourself. Think about what's the sound, what's next? Can I separate them in a way that makes it easier, right? And then I was gonna say the most difficult thing in that round, we did vowels, we did consonants. Mix the consonants is the next one, voiced or unvoiced. Last thing, not in your case probably, but for other people, what if they already have trouble with like R's or THs or I don't know, the ch sound, let's say. If you know your personal kind of like difficulties, here's a great way to work on them, you know? Then you do that z plus a r, Mugs rarely break in my house, for example, right? Then you can kind of stack those difficulties on there and kind of kill two birds with one stone. You see what I mean? So
Mm.
so what do you think about that? I know originally we were gonna talk more and think more about fluency, but we can do that next time. What do you think about the Z's, the voicing, let's say, the different kinds of T's? I know we did a lot today, but what do you feel like you want to apply or maybe do with this information now?
Well, it's interesting. The Z's at the end. I've been aware about this rule for quite some time, and I've been trying to force myself into voicing those Z's, and some of them I do correct. But sometimes something slips through. But what bothers me is that when I try to listen to like a movie or a news program, and I try to hear like, do this actor or an anchor really do the Z at the end?
Uh-huh.
And what I feel like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that
Uh-huh.
those are not the same Z's as when you say a zoo. No, it is more like a strong Z, because it still kind of softens a bit at the end. Sounds, because
Hmm.
I never hear people say sounds. It would be like too harsh, and sometimes
I,
it's more like kind of
oh,
falls into S, kinda almost.
trust your
But anyway, it's
ears.
just it.
Uh-huh.
Uh huh.
I was gonna say
But what you're
trust your
saying is
ears.
like
Yeah.
But what you're
Yeah.
saying is that like all native speakers, they always say Z at the end in those cases.
Let me say it this way. I don't like to say always, always anything, but I think the goal is right to speak clearly, to speak
Sure,
well,
sure.
like for
Mm-hmm.
to train the muscle. If English is not your first language, I'm gonna push this and I'm gonna push it hard for muscle memory for training, right?
Mm.
Because when we're under stress, whatever, we just revert back to what we're used to. So I say overdo it, and then it's gonna find the perfect place. And when you listen to, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know if you know Youglish. Youglish is great. It's for listening to people who are making videos, or yeah, you're on the street, you're listening to, and remember reporting, like you said, the reason we're here today is we want to be very articulate, right? We want to speak as clearly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say yes, and also remember your choices. If I'm at a party with someone, I might not be voicing it completely or at all. I might, especially if I've had a drink or two, I might, like if we're thinking about those T's too, I might be doing it, but there might be less forceful air, right? So you're going to hear all these different
Ah, interesting.
variations. And S's like T's vary among languages, right? Your S's might be a little more forward, they might be a little more back, right? You might be hearing some of those different things. So
Mm.
yeah, go ahead and play with it, I would say. See what feels good. See if you again are kind of matching some, let's say, model of speaker that you really like, right? But at least
Mm-hmm.
when you're on your own, you're in the shower and you're going, let's say, overdo
Yeah.
it, always overdo it, always know
Mm-hmm.
like what are my choices? How does it work? So that you can then, make it your own, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Do do native speakers do that? They're not even aware. Like my guess is
Well,
native speakers can watch this video and be like, "Oh my God, I never even knew that." Because we just do what we always did and we don't learn it. I had to learn a lot of this stuff. So does that make sense? What I'm trying to say
yeah,
in
sure, sure.
regards to your question? Okay, perfect, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling you one more thing because I just can't help myself. And then we'll say goodbye for today, and we'll see you soon enough. But one more thing, and I want to say this because I know it's been a while. And vowels are like the number one thing anybody can do to start to sound better. I know we didn't really talk about it, but one quick thing today. So this word, right? And let's keep with the theme. Let's say I have three. It's not true. Three of these. I don't have sisters. What do I have?
Brothers.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Brothers.
Brothers. Yeah.
We could say like umbrellas, right? So this is the symbol. I like it because it looks like an umbrella. Here's letter O, and when you said one thing that bothers me,
Ah,
like butterfly,
I
right?
didn't go all the way down. Bothers me. Ah,
So
yeah,
say this one
yeah. It
again.
happens. Yeah, it
Ah,
happens sometimes.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
Again, muscle memory, right? So push yourself
Sure, sure.
so it always falls back to the right place. Okay.
Bothers. Does It bothers
Exactly.
me. Yeah.
And what's the difference? You said down, and is my tongue down? Yeah, in my mouth. As in
Jaw. Yeah,
box.
the main thing is
Most
jaw.
main thing is jaw, exactly. And keep that tongue in the back. So there's two factors.
Mm-hmm.
Tongue in the middle. tongue in the back,
Bothers. Bothers me.
bothers.
Bothers
And
me.
now we know, look at that. There's an S with an M, but we know that S is going to be a Z sound, bothers, or Z,
Mm.
bothers me, right? And I know that was something, that wasn't something I was marking, but just to say, look at all this is like related, right? So you and I will get
Yeah.
together again soon. And just to reiterate, everybody, he's on Rumble now. So find him on Rumble. We'll put it in the description as well. And we'll say thank you, Konstantin, for being brave, for coming with me today. And after so much time, how do you feel about that?
I feel good. I feel good. I think that everyone should, have accent production training in one way or another, and it's just a never-ending story. Just you keep going. It's your lifetime thing. You never
Oh,
stop. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
you keep seeing little things, I think, and you're like, oh yeah, I got that. But then there's like this, then you see the other thing that you never would have
Yeah.
seen before, I think, and it becomes really interesting, right? So I want to thank you again for coming today because and just for everybody who knows, it's not like we prepared for this. I said, hey, let's just talk and see what happens. We kind of had a plan, but it took a left turn based on your needs, based on what you did. So yeah, thanks again, and we're gonna see you again. In the meantime, hopefully people will find you on Rumble. And if anybody wants to contact me, you can absolutely do so. And we can also dive in deeper into these things. So let's say thanks to the audience and we'll say bye for now.
All right, bye guys, and I look
Bye,
forward to our
guys.
next session.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll see you soon. Talk to you later, Konstantin.